Hi, I'm Kristin Davis, and I want to know, are you a Charlotte? Hello, everybody, and welcome to Are You a Charlotte? I have a very special guest today. This is Glenn Fleshler, and he played Shmuel. You guys, it's so exciting to talk to Glenn. He was in episode 106, Secret Sex. This is the first season, and I haven't seen him in person in many years, but I have seen his work so many times. And he's currently starring with George Clooney on Broadway in Good Night and Good Luck. So he took time on his day off to talk to us. And here is the lovely Glenn Fleshler. Glenn Fleshler is here. I'm so excited. Thank you for joining us.
It's an honor and a trip.
It is a trip, right? You know what is so funny to me about you is that obviously we worked together on the show Sex and the City, first season. Wait, what was the one called that he's in?
Secret
Sex. Secret Sex, that's right. And I mean, that was really early in the show. Mm-hmm. And you had your whole costume on, you know? But ever since then, you've been working so much. And I'd be watching something, I'd be like, that looks like that guy. And then I'd be watching something, and I'd be like, that looks like that guy. But like in my mind, you kind of were Shmuel. You know what I mean? The character, right? So then, and you play like these heavies, like you play like so many different, like really like intense guys, right? I'm like, am I crazy or is that guy? And
You're
it's
like,
always you.
Out, that terrible guy doing those terrible things.
I know, you do so many bad things, but those are fun parts, right?
They are, yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm so happy for all of your success, and I'm so happy that we were your first job.
Well, my first job, but my first TV show, I think.
Okay, my first TV show. There you go. So help me, tell me where you were at and what it was like to get cast in the show.
Well, I went to acting school at NYU and found myself very in debt and trying to work my way out of that by doing off-Broadway shows and regional theater, which is a fool's errand.
Oh, I did that too. So hard. Yeah.
But I loved it. But I really just, had no idea how I was going to go for it. And I always loved film and television, but everyone said, you have to go to LA if you want to do that. And I resisted that notion, being a native New Yorker.
Right.
And there wasn't really too much. I mean, HBO was just starting to do some things in New York, and Law and Order had just kind of fired up their franchises. And there were a few things and some indie films. So the weird thing is, it's weird to say this to you because very few people have played one character for 30 years or something.
I know. It's a
it's
shock.
Like you guys in Mariska.
Totally. We're a very lucky group.
But as a character actor, you kind of want to do different things. That's sort of the fun of doing it. But I've noticed in my career that you get... you go through these little mini runs where it's like, oh, now I'm playing all these killers, or now I'm playing these like tough attorneys, and that year that I met you, it was Hasidic Jews. And I played one off Broadway, and I played one in a movie.
Oh, with Renee Zellweger.
Yes, with Renee Zellweger.
Yes, I saw that, and I was like, there he is.
Who just returned to my life a few days ago. She came to see my show, actually.
Oh, that's so nice. She's so sweet.
But I did this Miramax movie, but then I had my own beard and my own hair.
Right.
And then that summer, I shaved my head for the first time, which I wore my head shaved for several years. But a director first asked me to shave my head for a role in a play I was doing, and I got the audition for Sex and the City. And I had, it also was kind of seminal because I realized through this job that I needed to get a new agent, because the head of the agency, who never really dealt with me very much, but she called me with this audition. This is Sex and the City, it's this new show, Darren Star, blah, 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 just Sarah Jessica. And I said, well, I played, that other Hasidic Jewish character, but now my head's shaved. And she said, you should bring pictures from the movie. You'll give your right arm. It's television,
Wow.
And I just thought, that's not the way I want to approach my career.
Totally.
And I didn't do any of that. I simply went to the audition thinking I think I had a goatee and a shaved head. And I thought, there's no way in hell they're going to cast me. I think it was Michael Patrick King maybe just him. I don't remember. I don't remember if I went in once or twice, but I just, did a very simple audition and I got the role. I was so shocked. So they built me all that stuff, the beard, and the payas, and the wig.
Yeah.
And you were the only person that I did not meet in the makeup trailer. So
Where
when you
was
say
I?
that, I don't know. I actually was at the, I was in the cafeteria or wherever you ate.
Right. Right.
And I ate a meal and I saw all of you across the room. And I knew who all the other three women were. And I knew that you had been on Melrose Place, but I didn't know your work. Forgive me.
That's quite all right.
So I saw you. I think your hair was like in curlers.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah. Interesting.
So I spied you from across the room and I said, okay, this is going to be fun.
Oh, thank God. Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad.
All right. I basically, my first TV job was like having to make out with you and smoke cigarettes all night. And that's basically, and lie like in bed afterwards.
Yeah, in Williamsburg.
I was like, I don't mind getting paid for that, honestly.
Oh, that's nice. So it was good.
I remember the look on your face because I think I had talked to the other women and they welcomed me to the show and all of that. And of course, the show hadn't aired, so nobody knew what it was.
Right.
And I remember walking on set and you didn't see me until I was all done up, with all this hair. And I remember the like fearful look in your eyes. And I just walked right up to you and said, look, I'm the love of your life and I don't want to hear anything about it or something like that.
Well, good on you.
And we had a fun time, as I recall.
We totally had a fun time. You were my absolute favorite of the entire first season. I don't even really remember the second season, so I'm just going to go with favorite of first and second season because you were very present. I just remember you being very present, which is why when I would see you later in your career, I'd be like, yes, that guy, he was so good. He was so good. Because, in the beginning, because no one knew, what we were doing, including kind of ourselves, right? In terms of Charlotte, she was very underwritten in the beginning. We were just kind of finding her. And I was just trying to, pull it off because I certainly was not one of these Manhattan women in any way. Right. Kind of nervously, just doing whatever they wrote for me week to week, which was kind of wild. Like it would be all over the place, and I was supposed to be the prude, yet I was really quite adventurous, I would say. Right. And I loved the storyline because it was such a, it was like its little world unto itself, right? And we went to Williamsburg, which back then was like, I had never been to Williamsburg. It wasn't cool and hip like it is now.
I always thought we were in Silver Cup, but
we could have been. We could have been. I mean, I remember how I walked down the street. I don't know. You probably haven't watched it. I just recently rewatched it, for the podcast. I walked down the street, so maybe I was there without you. And probably, so if we were in the cafeteria, that's like on one floor of Silver Cup, and then our dressing rooms were down on the
I also remember, I don't know if I came another day to do a fitting or something, but I remember at some point being at Silver Cup and they were like, do you want to come in and say hi to Michael, who was, I think, directing our episode? And I said, sure. And I walked onto set and again, hadn't done television. And I think there was a kickboxing scene going on.
Oh, yeah. Miranda. Yeah.
A little set that they'd made. And it was so tiny. And that blew my mind because I was like, I bet on TV this looks like a normal gym. But it was like such a tiny little set that they made for this little workout scene or whatever it was.
Well, also, we just didn't really have budget in the beginning, Yeah. So we must have, I thought that the loft that, your artist loft or whatever, I thought was actually in Williamsburg because I remember going to Williamsburg because there's a little shot where I'm walking down the street and I remember being there because at some point they found out that we were filming there, that we'd gotten a permit and they ran us off. They were basically like, get out, because they didn't know A, what we were, and B, we're named Sex and the City, which is a problem.
That happened in the Renee Zellweger movie also. We had a lot of trouble.
Wow. Different
they
times.
Didn't even know what the movie was, but they were assuming. And there was a lot of stuff in the newspapers about our shoot. And
Wow. So, but I hadn't remembered. I do know that either we built the loft in Silver Cup or we were in some other place in Manhattan because sometimes we'd cross purpose because we didn't have enough money to really get locations for each
I always
thing.
pictured it at Silver Cup, but I could totally be wrong.
Right. I mean, we were there a lot, and we would build all kind of crazy things like the boxing studio and yoga and this and that. But yeah, it is funny to think back on how kind of small and underwhelming our beginnings were in production wise. Funny considering where we are now.
Yes.
Which is a good thing. So it was a positive experience.
Absolutely. It's funny to me. I was very tickled to be asked, and I was excited to see you again after all these years.
Yeah.
And I'm so just impressed with where this has all gone for you. And I listened to some of your early podcasts, and it was great for me to learn your journey a little bit because I don't know the show very well. So that's why I was sort of I don't really know Sex and the City, and I'm coming on this podcast. But the weird thing is that it has cast such a huge shadow. I don't know if that's the right metaphor, but it's had such a long reach in my career. And for years, particularly when I hadn't done a lot of film and television, I would go around the country doing plays, and Sex and the City would be in my bio. And there wasn't much else as far as film and television. And women would come up to me. I mean, this is like all over the country, wherever I was working.
Yeah.
People would want to talk about that. And they'd come up to me and say things like, "Are you Mr. Pussy? Are you the dildo guy?" It's nothing. I didn't know the show, but I was like, okay, I'm getting a sense of what maybe is going on this show.
Oh my God, that's so embarrassing. I'm sorry, but that is funny. Did you say, "No, I'm Shmuel"?
I guess so, yeah. As soon as you say it, they're like, "Oh my God, I know the episode." Like people still to this day, like my hairdresser in Good Night and Good Luck, my show on Broadway. Was like, right away when I said I was going to do this podcast, she said she knew the episode.
Oh, that's nice. That is literally why I'm doing the podcast, because also, as you say, who would have ever thought in 100 years that we would still be being discovered by new people, being discussed, the old show, but also then continuing with them just like that and having the movies. None of it would have been anything that any of us would have dreamt up. So that's why I wanted to do the podcast in a way to kind of have a way to talk about it, to also talk about, it is so interesting to think about where we all were. We all came from all these different backgrounds and how we all came together. It is such a collaborative art form, and you don't always get to share these things. And I wanted to kind of create a tapestry of, who the people actually are and who they were and what's happened to them since, and the people who stand out to me, which you're definitely one of, and also the people who stand out to the fans. Because I don't think that the fans connect your whole career with that you're Shmuel. Do you know what I'm saying?
Most people don't. Every once in a while it comes up, though. It's as though people are the one to discover it. They're like, he was on Sex and the City. There have been magazine articles. And I actually had a director run up to me. I was doing Spring Awakening on Broadway.
Wow.
And the director came running and so excited. And he said, "You're number 35 of Men on Sex and the City and Entertainment Weekly magazine," or something. I was like, by that point it had been so long, and I was such a little part of it. And I know you had like a zillion great actors come through there. And so I was
you are one of them.
I was shocked.
You are one of them, Glenn.
Yo, K-pop fans, it's your boy Bomhan, and I'm bringing you something epic. Introducing the K Factor, the podcast that takes you straight into the heart of K-pop. We're talking music reviews, exclusive interviews, and deep dives into the industry like never before. From producers and choreographers to idols and trainees, we're bringing you the real stories behind the music that you love. And yeah, we're keeping it 100, discussing everything from comebacks and concepts to the mental health side of the business. Because K-pop isn't just a genre, it's a whole world. And we're exploring every corner of it. And here's the best part. Fans get to call in, drop opinions, and even join us live at events. You never know where we might pop up next. So listen to the K Factor on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. This isn't just a podcast, it's a movement. Are you ready? Let's go.
Hey, it's Jay Shetty, and I'm thrilled to announce my first ever On Purpose live tour presented by Chase Sapphire Reserve. That's right, I'm coming live to a city near you. Come and see me. Join me and surprise guests for meaningful and insightful conversations to spark learning, experience growth, and build real connections. I'll also guide you through live meditations, share groundbreaking insights, and create powerful moments of inspiration designed to deepen connections, spark growth, and foster learning. Chase Sapphire Reserve is the gateway to the most captivating travel destinations and offers exclusive rewards and experiences so you can explore the world your way. Discover more with Chase Sapphire Reserve.
The American West with Dan Flores is the latest show from the Meat Eater Podcast Network, hosted by me, writer and historian Dan Flores, and brought to you by Velvet Buck. This podcast looks at a West available nowhere else. Each episode, I'll be diving into some of the lesser-known histories of the West. I'll then be joined in conversation by guests such as Western historian Dr. Randall Williams and best-selling author and Meat Eater founder Stephen Ranella.
I'll correct my kids now and then where they'll say when cave people were here. And I'll say, it seems like the Ice Age people that were here didn't have a real affinity for caves. You know?
So join me starting Tuesday, May 6th, where we'll delve into stories of the West and come to understand how it helps inform the ways in which we experience the region today.
Listen to The American West with Dan Flores on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
The #1 hit true crime podcast, The Girlfriends, is back with something new, The Girlfriends Spotlight. Our first 2 series introduce you to an incredible gang of women who teamed up to fight injustice, showing just how powerful sisterly solidarity can be. We're keeping this mission alive with The Girlfriends Spotlight. Each week, a different woman sits down with me, Anna Sinfield, to share their incredible story of triumph over adversity. Like Luann, who was raised in a secretive religious community.
Do I want my freedom or do I want my family?
And found a way to escape.
When she said, "You know you can leave, right?" It was a light bulb.
And now helps other women get out too.
I loved my girls. I still love my girls.
So come and join our girl gang. Listen to The Girlfriend Spotlight on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
I found out I was related to the guy that I was dating.
I don't feel emotions correctly.
I am talking to a felon right now, and I cannot decide if I like him or not.
Those were some callers from my call-in podcast, Therapy Gecko. It's a show where I take real phone calls from anonymous strangers all over the world as a fake gecko therapist and try to dig into their brains and learn a little bit about their lives. I know that's a weird concept, but I promise it's pretty interesting if you give it a shot. Matter of fact, here's a few more examples of the kinds of calls we get on this show.
I live with my boyfriend, and I found his piss jar in our apartment.
I collect my roommate's toenails and fingernails. I have very overbearing parents. Even at the age of 29, they won't let me move out of their house.
So if you want an excuse to get out of your own head and see what's going on in someone else's head, search for Therapy Gecko on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. It's the one with the green guy on it.
Let's talk about the play, too, because I'm so excited that you're on Broadway with George. I'm so excited you guys are doing Good Night and Good Luck. It's, like, fantastic. I can't wait to see it. How's it going?
It's going very well. It's been quite a ride. I haven't been on stage for 10 years. So
wow. So that was really how you started.
That was how I started. Yeah, it was breathing to me back then. And then things kind of shifted in my life. I had a kid. I started doing more film and television, which I always wanted to do. But I also was a little kind of burned out and looking for a change. And occasionally something would cross my, it's not like anyone was begging me to come back. Occasionally something would cross my path, but it was just like it had to be the right thing. And because I knew George, you know, not always, you know, this might surprise you, but not always working with a big celebrity. It's not always the best thing.
What? I don't know what you mean.
And, you know, I've been mostly lucky actually, but because I knew George, I was like, well, he's going to be great. And he loves to have a good time. And he's so smart and funny and serious at the same time. Yeah. And I've just been so in awe of the way he's handled this whole thing, being a first-time playwright, being a first-time actor on Broadway, leading man on Broadway.
Yeah.
He's just handled it with such class and calm. And, I would say to him, like, we're in tech for this very complicated, intense show. It's okay if you want to like lose your shit once in a while. And he just was so easy with it all. It was like as though he'd been doing it his whole life. So
he is amazing. I worked with him first season of ER. I had a teeny part, right? Where I had to audition, I want to say 4 times, like some crazy thing. Because even though it was the first season, it was it had that like magic about it, and it was just kind of going up in the ratings. And he was so incredible and such a, even then, he was so incredibly smart about the business, like level-headed and like, such a great mentor. Like he would just, he would ask you questions and then he would say, oh yeah, you're going to be fine because you've got this quality, that quality, that quality. And this is what you need to do. Like, don't get hung up on the things that you don't get because those weren't meant for you. And the things that are meant for you, just give your all and, show up. And, he just had such a great, like kind of a cheerleading quality even back then,
He's still like that. And, one of the things that differentiates him is that he did struggle for a while. He did, he loves to talk about all his failed pilots and all his, his time on like Facts of Life and Roseanne as like, guest stars and recurring characters. And, that kind of gave him perspective on like how lucky he was to do ER and to have his film career. And then he just worked so hard to parlay that into so many incredible projects.
Absolutely. And produce so many beautiful things. And then to be on Broadway.
He loves to discover talent. He loves casting. He loves all that whole part of it,
And he's just so good at it. And it's just so exciting to have him on Broadway. I think it's a great thing that kind of, I felt like when I started, and because you went to NYU, I don't know how you felt about it. There were kind of like, you had to kind of pick a lane, right? Like I'm a theater actor. Oh, I'm a TV actor. Oh, I'm a film actor. And now it's all just,
Well, I always kind of rejected that idea, but you can feel the industry trying to do that to you.
Yeah.
Well, you did this thing. That's why I said like, it would kind of go in threes for me, like 3 Hasidic Jews. So I'd have to say like, okay, I need to pivot. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you have to know where your bread is buttered in a way. We have to work as actors, but also just in the back of your mind to think like, well, what's different than the last thing I did?
Yeah.
And, I'm right now coming off a run of like 4 independent films since the like strikes and all the things that were going on. And it was good. And I like indie films. Yeah. And they were all different and whatever. But I kind of felt like, okay, I need something else to happen. And then this just kind of came along and it was a
wonderful.
Surprise.
How amazing. I mean, yes, I am jealous of that in a way because obviously we have had this one thing that has just like, lived and lived and lived. And the wonderful thing about it is that A, luckily, I always liked Charlotte, but B, we've had this incredible relationship with Michael Patrick where he continues to write in ways that are challenging and deeper and, to have one character and then get to go through so many changes and phases and parts of her life. Like, it's very rare.
Well, that's why it's lasted because you haven't just rested on your laurels. The fact that you've allowed those characters to grow and that Michael has is part of the secret of your longevity, I'm sure.
I agree, absolutely. And I think it's also because if we weren't still interested, it wouldn't be interesting to watch, right? Like you have to be invested, in what you're doing and feel like there is something exciting and new. And I always feel that way. But I mean, again, it is kind of weird because when you're starting, you're thinking like I always thought, I mean, Broadway was my highest height that could happen, right? And so in the meantime, you're doing regional theater. And I also had an epiphany. I think I was in Cincinnati, where George is from, doing a play at they have like a theater up on a hill in a park. It's really pretty. Mm-hmm. And I think I was doing Much Ado About Nothing. And I was like, I'm making like $840 a week and I can't have a dog, because like I'm traveling the country. Like, this is not sustainable. How do people do this? Like, wow, it's hard, Mm-hmm. So that was a bit of a shock because I thought, oh yeah, that would be amazing to be a journeyman, regional theater actor. I thought that would be great. And then I got there and I was like, hard, really hard.
It's hard, that was kind of a model. I don't know if people can sustain that anymore. I think back in the day in this sort of era before we came up, there were people who just could have like a regional theater career. And there were also like more companies across the country, that would foster actors' careers.
Right.
So it got harder to do. But at one time I was like, yeah, this is romantic and it's great. And when you're young, it seems really cool. And plus I needed a place to sleep. So, I'd live in some housing, in some city for, a couple months at a time, and it would tide me over, until my next sublet or couch that I was sleeping on or whatever.
Wow. Amazing. But then, so in terms of Broadway itself, like I eventually got to Broadway with James Earl Jones, which was, of course, a dream and a miracle and, still just like almost like I dreamt the whole thing and it's a fantasy. It was so incredible just to go to the theater every day, and think like, I'm in this show on Broadway. Like, what the heck? Like, do you feel that way? How do you feel?
I'm very grizzled. It took me a very long time to get to Broadway. Like you, it was a big goal for me. It was a big deal. I grew up in New York going to see Broadway shows. So it was a big deal to me. But the difference from those like regional theater off-Broadway days was it's a very commercial venture.
Yeah.
People kind of dig their heels in, like, we're going to run this show for a long time. And like, this is my territory. There was like a different feeling. Yeah. I had a lot of great experiences, but I ended up cranking out 6 Broadway shows in 5 years.
Oh my God.
And by the end of that, and I wanted the experience of like a long run because, when you do a regional show, it's a couple months and then you're done. And usually I wanted to be done. But I would wonder about the people who did long runs on Broadway and these kind of legendary people who played one part for a long time. Like, how do you do that? And how do you keep it alive for that long? And I wanted to have that experience, and I did. And then I just realized, it makes me completely crazy. Like, I wanted to keep it fresh, and people are paying a lot of money, and I take that all very seriously. But it can kind of make you crazy.
Oh, definitely. It's so hard. It's so incredibly hard to do one show 8 times a week. One show 8 times a week is a fascinating challenge. I mean, Sex and the City and Just Like That is a different challenge, right? Because you're playing the same character, but you're in different situations, and different things are happening. And sometimes it's funny and sometimes it's serious. But when you're doing the same exact story night after night after night, oh, wow, it was like fascinating. I've never had a long run either, though. But just doing 8 shows a week is just a whole thing.
It is. It's a thing. This has been amazing, but it has been an incredible amount of work. Just a lot of it's like the most kind of mentally challenging. One of them most challenging things I've done because it's, and also it's that thing. I don't know if you've had this opportunity to like play a real person.
I have. It's so stressful.
Well, you want to honor that person's life, and so it also comes with that. And we're all playing real people.
Yeah. And you're playing great people, which is super fascinating.
Yeah. But complicated. And it's a really amazing moment in history. So it's taken a lot. Plus, we have, multimedia things going on. And,
I read in some of the glowing reviews.
But it's going really well and people love it. And I think people are kind of hungry for this kind of thing right now to hear the language that Edward R. Murrow spoke in the 50s and speaking truth to power and people just kind of like being at their best, doing great things. And, and a lot of these people was earlier in their careers, not Murrow, but a lot of the other characters, you're seeing them, they went on to be legendary news people, but at this point they didn't know if they were going to make it to next week,
That's amazing. Yeah, that's amazing. And what an incredible thing to be doing right now in our world.
Yeah, it feels good. It feels at a time where it feels like, you can feel very helpless. It can feel like, what can I do? This just feels like to go to work and be like, okay, this is why I'm an actor and this is what I'm doing. You
don't feel that very often.
It's really landing with people. So that part has been great.
It's super exciting. Can I just tell you a little anecdote about James Earl Jones?
Yeah. What was the show that you did with him?
It was The Best Man, which we used to do like every election time. There would be a version of The Best Man.
Was that with Michael Wilson?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Michael.
I love Michael Wilson so much.
I didn't remember that you did that. I should know.
Yes, I did. And the weirdest thing about it was that, so I replaced, I'm not going to remember her name, Carrie something. I was like the second cast. So it was the most incredible cast all the way around. But Michael Wilson had said to me, we tried to get you in the beginning. I was like, well, I never heard that. What? Like, that's like your worst nightmare as an actor, right? Like that someone tried to get you in a Broadway show and somehow your agents didn't feel like telling you. It was one of those moments where I do think there was an agency's change. You know, you do have those times.
I've had that a couple of times, not often, but once in a while where someone's like, I tried to get this to you. Did you ever hear about this? And I go, no, I never heard about this.
You're like, what? How could this happen? Like this is something that, of course, I would have moved heaven and earth to do, like with James Earl Jones. I'm sorry. Also an incredible rest of the cast, but like James Earl Jones. I mean, come on. So anyway, I replaced with John Stamos. We came in to replace Eric McCormack and Carrie something. She's very nice. And it was John Larroquette. You know, it's like everyone was amazing. Candice Bergen. I mean, it was so incredible. So I came on kind of late in the first act, and I had a lot of time to kill, and I was so incredibly nervous to be on the stage with these people. And I'd never been on Broadway. I'd grown up doing theater. I'd done theater at Rutgers. I'd gone to their BFA program, but I was rusty. You know, I was like, so scared. And John was like the best co-star in the world, but he had to go on, right? So I was just by myself. And I would go downstairs because they had built a dressing room for James Earl Jones that was on the same floor as the stage so that he didn't have to go up and down the stairs. And I would just go down there to hang out with him because he would just hang. He loved people. He loved to talk to everybody. So you could like stop in his dressing room and talk to him, or like sit backstage and talk to him or watch him. And he would change up stuff every night. It was incredible. It is amazing when you get to meet people who obviously you've admired your whole life and you know, watch their work and whatnot, and to be around them and then to see whatever way, because there's so many different ways to make it work, you know?
Yeah. I mean, that was my last experience really of being on stage. I became this sort of go-to person that could do these littler parts or little understudy roles and be on stage with Meryl Streep or Al Pacino or Christopher Walken. And so I had this run. I mean, I went to London and did a play with Maggie Smith. And it was all kind of in a row. So I was like, what's happening? After like no one knew who the hell I was for years, you know, and suddenly I was having these opportunities, but I felt like if I had stayed just doing theater, then I would have been like understudy to the stars or something, and, you know, and so I knew that there was more out there for me to do. And I wanted the challenge of, you know, I felt like film and television, even though I was doing it here and there along the way. In fact, I remember about watching you work because it was my first TV gig. And I was a little, of course, nervous about it. Didn't know the technique, or, you know, I don't know if I still do, but I definitely at that time didn't know, you know. And I remember watching you and thinking like, oh, she's done a lot. I don't know if I thought you were on a soap or had done, I knew you had done some stuff, but I was just like, your comfort level on camera, like that really struck me, because I was like, oh, she's just so easy. And for me, I had these like few lines and this little part, but it's like, you know, becomes so important, you know, which makes it hard. Those little parts are really hard.
Yo, K-pop fans, it's your boy Bomhan, and I'm bringing you something epic. Introducing the K Factor, the podcast that takes you straight into the heart of K-pop. We're talking music reviews, exclusive interviews, and deep dives into the industry like never before. From producers and choreographers to idols and trainees, we're bringing you the real stories behind the music that you love. And yeah, we're keeping it 100, discussing everything from comebacks and concepts to the mental health side of the business. Because K-pop isn't just a genre, it's a whole world, and we're exploring every corner of it. And here's the best part. Fans get to call in, drop opinions, and even join us live at events. You never know where we might pop up next. So listen to the K Factor on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. This isn't just a podcast, it's a movement. Are you ready? Let's go.
Hey, it's Jay Shetty, and I'm thrilled to announce my first ever On Purpose live tour presented by Chase Sapphire Reserve. That's right, I'm coming live to a city near you. Come and see me. Join me and surprise guests for meaningful and insightful conversations to spark learning, experience growth, and build real connections. I'll also guide you through live meditations, share groundbreaking insights, and create powerful moments of inspiration designed to deepen connections, spark growth, and foster learning, Chase Sapphire Reserve is the gateway to the most captivating travel destinations and offers exclusive rewards and experiences so you can explore the world your way. Discover more with Chase Sapphire Reserve.
The American West with Dan Flores is the latest show from the Meat Eater Podcast Network, hosted by me, writer and historian Dan Flores, and brought to you by Velvet Buck. This podcast looks at a West available nowhere else. Each episode, I'll be diving into some of the lesser-known histories of the West. I'll then be joined in conversation by guests such as Western historian Dr. Randall Williams and best-selling author and Meat Eater founder Stephen Ranella.
I'll correct my kids now and then where they'll say when cave people were here. And I'll say, it seems like the Ice Age people that were here didn't have a real affinity for caves. You know?
So join me starting Tuesday, May 6th, where we'll delve into stories of the West and come to understand how it helps inform the ways in which we experience the region today.
Listen to The American West with Dan Flores on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
I found out I was related to the guy that I was dating.
I don't feel emotions correctly.
I am talking to a felon right now, and I cannot decide if I like him or not.
Those were some callers from my call-in podcast, Therapy Gecko. It's a show where I take real phone calls from anonymous strangers all over the world as a fake gecko therapist and try to dig into their brains and learn a little bit about their lives. I know that's a weird concept, but I promise it's pretty interesting if you give it a shot. Matter of fact, here's a few more examples of the kinds of calls we get on this show.
I live with my boyfriend, and I found his piss jar in our apartment.
I collect my roommate's toenails and fingernails. I have very overbearing parents. Even at the age of 29, they won't let me move out of their house.
So if you want an excuse to get out of your own head and see what's going on in someone else's head, search for Therapy Gecko on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. It's the one with the green guy on it.
Dime a ver, I'm La Gata, the culture's favorite reggaeton historian, musicóloga, public scholar, and recording artist. Yes, that means I've done the work. On my show, the Reggaeton con La Gata podcast, I'm not only talking to Flor Menor, who has the #1 reggaeton track in the world right now, I'm also going to be on Perreo to speak with music innovators like Right Now, who is known for her media rockera tracks and collaborating with artists like Bad Bunny. We're also giving you the cultural breakdown straight from the source. Listen to Reggaeton con La Gata on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey everyone, I'm Jenna Bush Hager from The Today Show, and I'm excited to share my podcast, Open Book with Jenna. It is back for season 2. Each week, celebrities, experts, friends, and authors will share candid stories with me about their lives and new projects. Guests like Rebecca Yarros, Kristin Hanna, Ego Wodum, and more. Like a good book, you'll leave feeling inspired and entertained. Join me for my podcast, Open Book with Jenna. To start listening, just search Open Book with Jenna wherever you get your podcasts.
That's what struck me, and I'm glad to hear you say that because, like I said, my memory of myself first season was that I was kind of a mess, or that I felt inside like a mess, you know?
Of course. That was interesting for me to hear you say that on some of the other pods you did, because I was like, oh, to me, you were just like, oh, the seasoned pro from LA and like, you know, just really easy. And I was just like, oh, I need some of that.
Well, excellent. Well, this is what I felt about you, and it must have been either... And because I barely remember, like there are things that I don't remember, like I should have come talk to you in the cafeteria or whatever. Like I don't know what was going on with me that I wasn't. We were probably running lines or so. Who knows? But you know what struck me compared to, we did have this whole kind of run of these young men who came on the show, right? First season, second season, before the show really hit, and they were in what we think was going on, which we don't know, but we would discuss it when they weren't there. It was weird because the men were the girlfriend parts, right? In a way that they weren't really used to being. And they seemed perplexed about how to do that, you know, whereas all of us very well versed in how to do that, because that was basically what you got to do in TV and film back then. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Unless you were Meryl Streep.
That's what I heard from all my female friends, my actress friends. It's like, it's another girlfriend part, another wife, you know.
Exactly. And they're very hard in a certain way because you kind of have to figure the guy out and what they want and how to make it.
You want to still be a person. You want to be a person, not
you want to be whole. You know? Absolutely. And what I remember about you, and maybe I knew about your theater background, or maybe I didn't. I kind of just felt like you were this Shmuel, like for whatever reason. And I just remember you being so present. And that's really what you want. That's really the basic gist of everything that you want in a especially in a romantic thing, because you want to have some life. And it can't, even with the incredible writing that we had, which first season we're still finding ourselves, but like they wrote really well. But if you're not present with the other person, you're having to do so much more work, you know? And I remember you just being a breath of fresh air in that regard, which is why I always had such a fond memory. I was like, oh, that was a great storyline. Thank God.
I'm amazed you even remember it after all these years.
I mean, it stood out. It really stood out. There's a lot of things about first season.
To me, that's a tribute to you, because I just feel like you made me so, after that initial thing of that look in your eyes, seeing me.
I'm sorry.
That's
about
okay.
that.
I think you were right. I would have.
I'm sure I was a little response. I was like, wow, they really went for it. I think that's what I thought. Because that's what I thought when I rewatched it. I was like, wow, I forgot that they really, really went for it. Wow.
Well, you're right, because nobody was doing that on TV before your show. I don't think, that you would see something like that. And
that's right.
And, there were laughs, but it was like you're also trying to play it for real, kind of. And in fact, I remember I was at a Shakespeare festival that summer when the show aired. And I was like, I don't know what I thought about the show and like how that was going to come off and anything. I was a little worried to watch it, but
I get it.
But this friend of mine who was in the cast was like, we're going to gather everybody and we're going to watch this show. And so we watched it like late at night. Somebody recorded it after a performance, I think. And we're sitting in this like housing we're in, all watching it. And there's like a moment I'm like eyeballing you, and then I like flick a cigarette, and the whole room erupted. I remember that response. I was like, oh, I guess this works. Like I had no idea that it was
amazing,
funny, that it was anything. I knew that it was good working with you, but beyond that, I had no idea how it would come across. So it was kind of funny to do it with a room full of people, my first like TV thing, and just have people like go crazy,
That's amazing. I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, that is the one thing about television that's sometimes a bummer, is that you don't get to see the audience reaction,
Right.
Like it's just such a joy because we would usually premiere the first 2 episodes like with a group, and it's such a joy because when you're working and you watch yourself by yourself, you're always critical. You're always going to have some critical whatevers. But if you can watch everyone else respond, it takes that away. And you can just be like,
I've been lucky enough to have a few shows where, you got to go to a big premiere or something and they'd show the first episode or 2 and you get to do that with a theater full of people. That is great. Yeah.
It is great. And that's the great thing about live theater too. It's just that you're just immediately in sync with what's happening.
They'll tell you.
I know it. Well, what a joy. What a joy you are. And I'm going to come see that show, and I can't wait.
Great.
And I wish you all the success in the world.
Thank
you for coming on the podcast.
It's really been a privilege. And it's so good to see you after all this
I know. And that's also what I love about acting, right? Like you get to meet so many different people, and then you don't know if you'll see them again or if you won't, or if you'll get to see their work. And like, it's just been such a joy over the years to be like, oh my God, that's that guy. There he is killing people or whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
one theater director I had said, we're friends of the heart, because we don't see each other. We don't know when we'll see each other or if we'll, but you see the person's work and you go, oh, that's my person.
I know. That's so true. That's so true. And you feel connected. You are connected. That's a good point. I like that. I like that very much. Well, friend of the heart, go and have a good show. Oh, you don't have a show tonight. Have a good week of shows.
No, I have a day off.
You have a day off. Thank you for talking to me on your day off.
It's been such a pleasure, and it's great to see you. And congratulations on everything and on this podcast, which I think is so awesome. You're really working very hard. I can see.
I am working very hard.
You're
trying
doing a lot
to
of these.
Make it what I want it to be. It's an ongoing process.
Tons of material, and because you had so many great actors on the show over the years, I know from the New York theater side of things, like all the kind of cool people you've had coming through there. So I think it would be a blast.
Yeah, that's the joy, of working in New York and getting to have those people. And I've just been really picky about who I've had on, but you have been on my list, and thank you. Thank you for coming through, because there are people where people talk about them, like you, and also Andrea Bocelli, who played the modelizer, the model guy, the bone, they called him in the first or second episode. No one has found him for years. I mean, he's not like you. He's a realtor now. But I got him on. So I have my, my people I'm looking forward to, and you were one of them. So thank you so much.
Well, it was a no-brainer. I'm thrilled to see you, and thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure, Glenn. Okay.
All right, take care, Kristin.
I can't wait to see the show. Okay, bye.
Yo, K-pop fans, are you ready? It's your boy Bomhan, and I'm bringing you the K-Factor, the podcast that takes you straight into the heart of K-pop. We're talking music, idols, exclusive interviews, and even the real behind-the-scenes K-pop stories. Plus, you, the fans, you're part of the show. And you can get a chance to jump in, share your opinions, and be part of the conversation like never before. And trust me, you never know where we might pop up next. So listen to the K-Factor starting on April 16 on iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. This isn't just a podcast. It's a K-pop experience. Are you in? Let's go.
My husband has a secret son from a past partner.
Hold up, Sam. How do we know? Have we done the DNA test?
Well, John, luckily it's Mother May I Have a DNA Test Week on the OK Storytime podcast, so we'll find out soon. And this wife writes, my husband received a Facebook message from a woman saying that he is the father of a 5-year-old.
Whoa!
At first, he didn't remember her, but then he realized they had a one-night stand right before we started dating.
Wait, but do we have proof he's the dad?
To hear the explosive finale, listen to the OK Storytime podcast on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Why is a soap opera western like Yellowstone so wildly successful? The American West with Dan Flores is the latest show from the Meat Eater Podcast Network. So join me starting Tuesday, May 6th, where we'll delve into stories of the West and come to understand how it helps inform the ways in which we experience the region today.
Listen to The American West with Dan Flores on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
The number one hit podcast, The Girlfriends, is back with something new, The Girlfriends Spotlight, where each week you'll hear women share their stories of triumph over adversity. You'll meet June, who founded an all-female rock band in the 1960s.
I might as well have said, we're going to walk on the moon.
But she showed them who's boss.
They would rush up and say, not bad for chicks.
Come and join our girl gang. Listen to The Girlfriend Spotlight on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
That's the fun part about being an artist, that you need to have the patience for finding your pen.
I'm La Gata, the culture's favorite reggaeton historian and musicóloga. On an episode of my show, the Reggaeton con La Gata podcast, I sit down with Bodhi, a Boricua reggaetonera who's demanding her place in the male-dominated music industry.
That's the game, like who stays and who leaves,
Listen to Reggaeton con La Gata on America's #1 podcast network, iHeart. Follow Reggaeton con La Gata and start listening on the free iHeartRadio app today.
You're listening to an iHeart podcast.